It is a legend, they say. A legend born today.
It's the forbidden legend, Connor. It's the legend we've been holding back.
A forsaken legend.
A tormented soul. If you all want to take a shot every time we say the word legend, I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
I think there's rules on this platform against encouraging strong alcoholism.
And that's why we're moving to Mixer. Or Dailymotion, I forget what the alternatives are these days.
Vimeo, Dailymotion.
Join up to our OnlyFans. You will see Connor's butt.
Yay! Oh, Jesus, no. I'm not ready for that.
No, give that another 12 years, friends. And
another 12 years.
Yeah.
Listen, alright? If I'm going to do that kind of thing, I got to do it right.
Exactly.
I got to be in the best shape of my life.
Do you know what you need to get your butt to?
What?
You need to have a fine butt.
A fine butt?
Yeah, that will make sense by the end of this podcast.
Not a legendary butt.
Yeah, that's a joke setup.
Alright, well, in which case then, the Fine of K... Oh, shit, the Legend of K...
The Legend of K.
Is...
Sorry, Legend of K.
Legend of K, yeah, sorry, there's no the about this. This is an unspecific legend. You may have heard of it before, either from us consistently saying it, or you've heard something that sounds loosely like this game, but it isn't.
This is one of those games that's really indicative of our very loosey-goosey approach to scheduling. Because originally it was supposed to be that we were going to do it in order of games that we played.
Yeah.
But then we started with Resident Evil 4 because we thought that was a good grounding game.
Yeah.
And then we kind of did it like that for a while, and then we started putting in newer games. And then we got to K, and we were like, let's not talk about K. Let's just keep pushing it back for some unspecified reason.
How much are we really going to have to say about K?
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, though, we started with Resident Evil 4 because it was a really good baseline for what a good game is, for what a proper landmark title is. This is going to be a good landmark baseline fine. Okay.
This is a towering achievement in the field of finery.
Yes.
This is an absolute monument to mediocrity.
Indeed. And you might say, well, why are we even talking about it? Well, simply put, it's special to me.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I must make most apparent to you, dear listeners, is that all of Connor's beloved games are all very fine. All the games of Connor's youth are either terrible or just okay.
Yeah, well, there are some you can make a very strong argument for that they were actually kind of good at what they were doing at the time. But there's also much stronger arguments to be said that almost everything I like is a 7 out of 10.
Meanwhile, I was out there on the fine fields of Clock Tower 3.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was playing the classics.
Growing up on the masterpiece.
I borrowed that from a friend.
Yeah.
And, it scared me so much that I couldn't play it. I couldn't get past Sledgehammer. I was like, no way, man.
The fucking Clock Tower. How interesting time flies.
Yeah,
How time changes in that front.
So yeah, this is very much... Well, listen, viewers. This is a game where you play as a little cat guy. This is a Connor game.
Yeah.
There's no need for me to explain that. You just knew it in your hearts all along.
You followed my channel.
You saw the game and there wasn't a sad girl in it. And you were like, all right, well, Connor's doing the one this time, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, Connor, would you like to tell me a little bit about your Legend of K childhood?
Certainly. So, in order to set up Legend of K, what it is, for those of you dying to know about this bizarro enigma of all history, this complete sort of blank slate in the mind of the human consciousness, we need to start by talking about the Simpsons hit and run.
Of course. There's no other way to do it. That's just self-explanatory.
So, it is probably 2005.
What a year it was.
Gonna say 2006, but it's around this time.
You weren't really like a new game kind of child, weren't you? You were a bit more of a pre-owned kid.
No, we were not a very rich family, so we very much lived and breathed and died by the pre-owned trade-in aisle.
Yeah.
And I go to this after-school club. They have a PlayStation 2 hooked up. Bearing in mind, again, 2006, Xbox 360's already out, so...
Yeah.
Kind of already a bit behind on things, but that's okay. You can't expect much more from a fucking, village hall in a, in the
tiny village that you grew up in where they didn't even have lights.
Yeah. It makes it sound like I'm from, a medieval hamlet.
It might as well be. You've been to a place we won't name,
Yeah, just to keep our protection.
Keep our protection, no one can know.
No one can know.
They can't know where we used to live and aren't currently.
Yeah, they can know.
They find us.
They can know we're in Norwich. That's fine.
Norwich is a gigantic city. It's the size of Tokyo.
Oh yeah, no, Norwich is a metropolis.
Basically,
positively.
We have 2 Gregs.
That's a landmark.
Yeah, 100%.
Crazy.
Yeah.
On this PlayStation, at this village hall, this after-school club, there was the Simpsons Hit and Run, and that was the only way I was really able to play that game, but I really wanted it. I had a PlayStation 2 at this time.
Yeah, we all did.
And I really wanted to have this game because I really enjoyed the Simpsons Hit and Run, or at least the first level of it that I could play. Naturally, my older brother hears about this, and he goes, right, I know just what to do.
Yeah, because for reference, Connor's older brothers are much, much older than he is.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a decade.
A decade and more, yeah. As a result of that, one day, I'm back from school, and my brother goes up to me in my room, and he has his arms behind his back, and he says, okay, pick a hand. And I go, okay, the left hand. And he pulls out the left hand, and holding it, what he's holding is Legend of K.
I like how you first put that, because you said you implied that Legend of K was holding your brother's hand.
K was there. Yeah. He brought him in and said, I'd like to introduce you to someone.
Check him out.
But he held out this copy of Legend of K. And now, the thing is my brain ran on dial-up when I was a little boy.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kind of looked at it, not with disappointment, though. It wasn't with excitement. It wasn't with disappointment. It wasn't really with anything. It was just kind of a blank stare of, this isn't what I thought he was going to pull out.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out the other hand and he's got the Simpsons sitting running down. And I'm like, all right, sweet.
There we go. It's a party.
But he's mainly like, look, I saw this had a cat on it, and I know how much you like those.
It's quite fetching box art. We're now doing our box art section, where it's got Legend of K, and he's like in a cross clash with a monkey.
Yeah,
with a big sword.
with a big monkey.
Yeah, it's pretty fetching art, I think. I don't think it's bad at all.
I think that for deep lore on my part, this is very much the mixing of new and old for me. You know, Ash is well aware that I love monkeys and I love cats.
Yeah, Connor's shadow is Donkey Kong.
Yeah, there was a picture that my friends took of me at one point, and the shadow looked exactly like Donkey Kong. And that picture has sadly been lost to the ages, but I'm certain we could recreate it.
100%, yeah, because that is your stand.
Yes, absolutely. Do not forget this ape.
You also have a t-shirt which just has a big picture of Donkey Kong on it.
I do.
And I like that t-shirt a great deal.
I do too. This place it came from closed down recently.
It's quite fitted as well, because it's quite clingy to your body. And the fact that Donkey Kong is so close to your form, so close to your heart.
Indeed, indeed. He really accentuates my ape-like physique that I have.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, sweet. And I ended up giving both games a pretty fair shot, because I was like, you know what, these both seem up my alley.
Yeah. And also you're like 8 or 9, so
yeah,
you're like, video games, great.
Why not?
Yeah. And
so I play the kind of first quote-unquote level, I guess, of Legend of K, and I get kind of bored of it and I drop it.
Oh, really? That is surprising.
Yeah, I didn't care so much for it. And then I then played the Simpsons...
I was going to say, how did you find the Simpsons Hit and Run?
Well, I played the Simpsons Hit and Run, and I played through that first level, and then the difficulty spikes up considerably.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
In every level of Simpsons Hit and Run. And so
playing as Marge just like haunts my dreams.
Yeah, I dropped it even harder. And to the point where I traded it in, but I never gave up Legend of K. I thought, I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So a year goes by, which for me, at that age, was like half my fucking life. I don't know.
Connor was 2 at the time. He was a very precocious child.
I can't count. Never could. But I decide to go back to it, and I give it a fairer shot, and it becomes like my new hotness. Like, this is the kind of game, I think I played this repeatedly for a few months. For one very specific reason, and that was that my PlayStation's memory card slot broke. And you might...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which, that might sound weird, because... So basically what it meant is I couldn't save the game. And you might think, hold on a minute, PlayStation 2 has 2 card slots, so why...
That's why it's called the PlayStation 2.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
That was a Mark Cerny decision.
Oh, yeah, he was very into it.
Yeah, you know that because his name sounds like Sony, so that's why they hired him.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my
follow the money.
My conspiracy.
It's a big one, it's a doozy.
But you might think, well, there's a second memory card slot. Surely I could have just saved on that. No, for some fucking reason, Legend of K is the only PlayStation 2 game I own that only saves to memory card slot.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's really weird. I would have thought that would have been like a Sony cert thing. Surely you have to have access to both slots, but I guess not.
Yeah, I couldn't.
It was 2005, no one cared anymore.
So for months, I would basically speed run this game because I knew that if I left my PlayStation on and went to school, my mum would just turn it off.
God, dude, you just have the exact same relationship to this game that I have with Clock Tower 3. Where I didn't have a PS2 memory card, so I just played the first level over and over again. Well,
what I was going to say about this, and this kind of adds on with a couple other details later, is you joked that Shadow the Hedgehog was my Resident Evil 4. Because Resident Evil 4 is a game that you've played multiple times, you own on multiple platforms, you have quite a connection to. I think this is my Resident Evil 4. Because
And is that more or less tragic?
I think that's... What, then Shadow, or...
No, is it more tragic that Shadow was your Resident Evil 4, or is it more tragic that Legend of K is your Resident Evil 4?
That's a great question.
Because at least Shadow is very memorable.
Yeah, at least people know about it.
And also it's got all those different paths that you can take through it.
Yeah. But this is one I, basically as a kid learned to speedrun and that kind of thing, to try and get as far as I could. And eventually it got to a point where my PlayStation 2, as it stands right now, the only reason I own a black slim PlayStation 2 is because eventually on a birthday I got a replacement. I got that instead of my old silver one.
This exact PS2 that we see before us?
This exact PlayStation 2. Yeah. That is because of K.
A PlayStation 2 we've used to play many classics.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed.
Like The Legend of K. Haunting Ground.
Yeah, and many...
Project Zero 2.
Project Zero, yeah. Fatal Frame, right?
Yeah, Fatal Frame,
yeah. Excellent.
Sorry for all of our listeners who are not British. Which is most of them.
I've only ever known it as Fatal Frame, so I've been Americanized.
There you go.
Yeah, so this is a game that's quite special to me, and yet...
I believe you used to refer to it as one of your favourite games, correct?
Oh, when I was a kid, yeah, it used to be one of my
this,
favourite.
Shadow, and one of the racing games you had?
It was like that and Fire Warrior.
And Fire Warrior, yeah, of course.
Fucking...
It has to be uniquely tragic.
So those of you who are familiar with any of those games will probably think, oh dear, okay, so that's the bar we're dealing with? But I would say, no, this game isn't that bad.
No. This game is surprisingly the most competent of those three games.
Yeah, it's the most alright.
Yeah, this is going to be a very rare kind of podcast where, you know how usually it's Ash really likes a game, Connor really likes a game, or they both don't like a game. This is going to be us going, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay. That's why they called it that.
Legend of OK.
Genius. They probably were like, that just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Can you take off a word? And then they had a board meeting and it was like, okay, it's either Y or O. Someone figure it out.
It can't be Oka.
Legend of Oka.
Yeah, actually I kind of like that more.
That'd be better. Yeah. But that's my backstory with this game.
Yeah, so it's a game that's very special to you, maybe not because of its own inherent qualities, but you have a lot of connection to it because of its presence in your youth.
Yeah.
Especially as a game that came out of nowhere as well, that you didn't even choose for yourself.
Yeah, no, this was by divine providence. My brother found this in, I think, a Woolworths and decided...
Woolworths, no less.
Yeah,
wow.
And decided, this seems it's right up my brother's alley, so...
Yeah, it's got a cat on it, so...
Exactly.
He'll be into that. Were you into cats when you were young?
I was. I used to be a dog person.
Okay.
And then I moved into a neighborhood that had loads of friendly cats, and I was like, you know what, these guys are great. But he can't fight with a sword. Ash?
Huh?
How do you feel about Legend of K?
How do I feel about Legend of K?
What's your backstory? How did you get introduced to Legend of K?
So, with many of the games on the list thus far, I have a similar relationship with The Legend of K, in that I know it entirely through you. And it's one of those very special games where it's a game that you've been talking about forever. And I've known you for fucking ever as well. Like, I've known you since I was like 12.
Oh yeah, can I mention about how there'd be loads of times where I'd invite Ash over to play a game, and I'd be like, all right, pop the disc in, Ash, and then she'd open up the box, and it would just have a disc of Legend of K in it, regardless of what game.
So once again, I remind our listeners that Connor is very funny, and I've known him for a very long time, and he's always been doing this.
This has been going on a while.
And so in the pre-list goes on era of our friendship, which was a sad, dreadful time where all we did was play Mario Kart.
Oh, dreadful.
And complain about our jobs or something. Connor would just talk about The Legend of K sporadically. He'd bring it up at times. It'd be kind of like a long-running joke. And then eventually, when we decided to do The List Goes On, and he brought it up as a game to play, it was like, oh, cool, we can finally put a name to that legend. I can finally understand what he's coming from. And you've got to understand that at this point, the two games that Connor had made me play were Shadow the Hedgehog and Fire Emblem Fates, which are both dreadful in different ways. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I definitely didn't have high hopes.
Well, this came right off the back of us playing Geist, and you were saying, look, Connor, I feel like we're at our breaking point. Can we play something good? And I went, you know what? I remember Legend of K being good. It will at least be good compared to everything we played before it. And it was better.
It was better, yes. That is true, objectively, definitively. We can't say otherwise.
No, this kicks the crap out of Geist. I'm so sorry, Reggie. You backed the wrong horse.
Listen, Reggie's already upset with us, so...
I know.
We've already burned that bridge in a fire tornado.
I know. Please, if you want to come on the show, Reggie, we can talk about it.
What episode would Reggie come on for?
Reggie would come on for Escape from Bug Island, I think.
I would like that.
I would too.
That would be a good time. Yeah. So that's my backstory with this game. It's a game that I only associate with you. That's my only reaction to it. That's the only reason that I know anything about it at all, is because you go on about it, and I've known you too long.
Far too long.
Yeah.
Far too long. Well, I feel like we've taken far too long to get to Legend of K. We have built up a legend around K.
There's a lot of context around K. This is a game that's been a part of our lives for a very long period of time, so it wouldn't feel right not to give it so much setup, I suppose.
Exactly. And what better way to wrap up Season 1 of The List Goes On?
Oh yeah, this is the end of Season 1, by the way. We're having seasons now. That's a new thing we invented.
Yeah, well, listen, when we get this on... I can't carry this joke. That gives us way too much credit. Do you know how many times we've said the word legend? We need to stop. This is the most insufferable podcast yet. It's all my fault.
Well, this is why we kept delaying it. Because we knew we couldn't do it. We're like, listen, we can make a 2-hour episode about some cars going around, but...
but not about Legend of K.
Alright, what's next on our stupid list?
Well, it's called the dumb fucking intro.
Yeah, tell me about the dumb fucking intro.
Alright, so... Legend of K, we need to talk about the premise of this game.
The premise of K.
Legend of K is a fantasy action-adventure game. I think that's the best...
It's a role-playing game.
It's a... Don't you... Right. Sorry, the back of one of these boxes describes it as a role-playing game. It's a role-playing game in the same fucking way that, like, Arkanoid is a role-playing game.
We also have to draw quick attention to the fact that Connor has 3 physical copies of The Legend of K that we're looking at right now.
And I will have more.
He has plans for more.
Yeah.
Right now, we're looking at a PS2, a PC, and a Wii U version of the game.
Yeah, if you want to know how... You were like... For those of you who have been following, you're like, hold on a second. 2005 game and it has a Wii U copy. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll get to that. But this is an action adventure game involved.
I think to me it most evokes Zelda.
Yes,
like modern Zelda, modern to the time Zelda, like Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time Zelda.
I guarantee you that's why they put the legend prefix on there to basically get people of that same crowd to join it. Especially since it used to be a PS2 game, it was like, you ain't got Wind Waker? Don't worry, buddy.
Yeah.
Here's a different, colourful game.
We've got Wind Waker at home.
Yeah. And it's set in this fantasy world where everyone is an animal. An island called Yenqing, which is supposed to be like a inspired by Chinese mythology, where
East Asian, right?
Yeah, I think it's like vaguely East Asian because I think the gorilla enemies are vaguely Japanese coded. I think a lot of the friendly characters are Chinese coded.
The Caribbean frogs.
The Caribbean frogs, the Chinese stereotype rabbits, the Chinese stereotype pandas, and the American cats.
Yeah, the cats are American, aren't they?
Yeah. They do not have an accent.
Great.
At all.
Some of them have an Asian accent.
Some.
Like the old lady in Your Master does.
Yeah. I think it's because they looked at those character models, saw they had little whisker moustaches, and went, well, they have to sound like...
We have to be racist. There's no other way.
There's some allegations to be put towards K on this one. But it very much has that kind of East Asian aesthetic, and honestly, I like that in fiction. I mean, my favourite television show is Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I'm very fond of it as an aesthetic.
This is very similar as well, in which there are 4 different cultures that are vaguely Asian, but different in fun ways. So they're not quite as developed as Avatar might be.
No, definitely not. Avatar is like world-building apex. It's so good for what it is, and yet K cannot compete.
No.
Same year, I might think, actually. Isn't Avatar Last Airbender like a 2005-6?
Well, according to us, everything came out in 2005, so I'm gonna say yes.
It's the golden year.
Yeah.
I'm just checking the copyright on this DVD copy.
Yeah, you'll be fortunate to know, or you'll be happy to know that Connor had a copy close to hand, so you could check.
I've been watching this.
Yeah.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
I couldn't find it.
No, yeah, we failed you once again.
This is a reprint from 2013. I just changed the colour of my lights by slapping the Avatar box.
Yeah. You'll also be glad to know that Connor's lights are in the shape of a cat.
Very important.
He is nothing if not true to himself.
Alright.
Whoa, violence against animals, bro.
That's how you turn it on and off. There you go.
Anyway, welcome back to our audio podcast. Tell me about Yenqing.
This island full of colourful animal characters follows this one religion called the Way. At least I'm pretty sure it's a religion because they describe
it's like a mantra.
Yeah.
Like a way of living life.
It's a loosey-goosey kind of way of life thing. And I only found this out a couple of years ago. The Way is an actual thing. It was written by a Chinese philosopher called Lao Tzu. And, like, Lao Tzu is considered one of the great philosophers next to Confucius and, like, Sun Tzu, you know? That kind of thing.
I was really hoping you'd be like, next to Sun Tzu and others.
But the idea being is that eventually everyone got a bit tired of the religion. They kind of dropped it loosely, and the strength of it kind of dwindled. These magic fountains that exist across the entire island of Yenqing end up drying up. They're kind of powered by the spirit of the Way, and they dry up as the faith itself dries up. You might be saying, oh, these fountains sound important.
No.
They don't come up in anything. However, we then cut to Gorillas.
Gorillas.
The four nations live together in harmony. Everything changes when the gorillas attack.
Exactly.
They sweep the entire island because none of them are warriors.
And they've all become lazy and conceited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the gorillas allying with these alchemisty magic rat people take over the entire island and subjugate all the peoples and gradually destroy their way of life, including dismantling the fountains, I think.
Yeah, it's honestly a really comprehensive colonial story. The gorillas are like bribing local officials on the island to allow them to have their way. There's like little military bases that are set up within people's villages that have like rat encampments and stuff like that. Yeah. Like whenever the gorillas have they have press conferences.
Yeah.
But like the gorillas are like, we've come to make an announcement about the state of the colonialism, and it's like, what are we doing in Legend of K? Like,
yeah. I feel like there's a scale of world building that you can have in these things, and this is somewhere around one of the guys who was a writer is probably a pretty decent dungeon master and had a bit too much time.
One of the guys who is a writer for this is me. Because the all that stuff at the beginning has 2 political references that are completely out of nowhere.
Complete deep cuts.
Yeah, it's like at one point someone says we will have peace with honor in reference to a thing Richard Nixon said about the Vietnam War. And then when the monkeys are having their press conference, they say we will make the world safe for denocracy, which is like a weird version of democracy they have.
Yeah, denocracy.
Denocracy, yeah.
They talk about how the rats have this something called like the monotonous din.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that might be another weird deep cut to something that's from China.
Perhaps, yeah.
But
finally, Chinese spiritualism, Woodrow Wilson, hand in hand.
Yeah, because the other theory I've got is that it might just be like awful din, like noise.
Yeah.
Like, oh, those rats and their awful noise.
They do make a lot of noise,
because rats are loud. If you've had rats,
they make the little kissy noises.
They do. They're very sweet.
Yeah.
Until
not these rats, though.
Not these rats. These rats are bastards. These are Skaven tier rats.
Exactly. They've been doing some substance abuse.
Indeed.
Alchemist my ass.
We eventually cut to our protagonists and a girl called Suling. But Suling is basically sitting around the fountain being like, Kay, we should get everyone to follow the way again, and that way we can stand up against the gorillas.
I feel like Sulin is like, Kay, you idiot, you buffoon, our way of life is being erased by foreign invaders, what are you doing? And he's like, whatever.
Kay just goes like, nah, dude, the fucking gorillas kicked our ass because they're super strong.
Yeah.
So
and might makes right, so get out of here, Sulin.
And then Sulin goes, fine, I'm gonna go live with my hippie friends in the Panda City.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because all this stuff all the cutscenes of this nature are done in like a kind of comic book style.
Yeah.
Where it's a bunch of like illustrated panels rather than in-game characters talking.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I do kind of like that as a
no, me too, choice. Yeah. Especially when you look at the actual in-game models.
Oh.
And you're like, go back to the comic book stuff, please.
Yes, please. The characters look a lot better in that style. Suling leaves, Kay brushes it off, and he goes to visit his master.
No, he goes to Uncle Shen.
No, he sees his master first. No, his master falls over, and says, come back later.
Right.
But then, please introduce me to Uncle Shen.
Yeah, so you go to my favourite area in the game, which is called House of Uncle Shen. Uncle Shen lives there. And Kay goes up to Uncle Shen, and he stands in this really weird way where he's doing a little side jiggle.
Yeah.
And like his eyes are really narrowed, and he's like, Uncle Shen, my masters are drunk, Sulin is prattling on about how our culture's being destroyed, and there's grats everywhere. And fucking Uncle Shen is like, okay, man, let me tell you about what I would do. Actually, I'm not going to. Life is the best teacher. Get out there and live. And then he's like, okay, listen, if you have any questions, come back to me, Uncle Shen, who lives in Uncle Shen's house. And Kay's like, great, thanks, Uncle Shen. And when you come back to him to ask him questions, he just goes, what are you doing? Go out there, idiot. Live. I just told you. And it's like, then why did you ask me to... What are you doing, Uncle Shen?
You know, I feel like we should have a celebration of the best deadbeat dads in our games. Because Shen isn't even a dad and he's already up there.
Yeah.
He is not helpful. No. He's just some guy. I don't even know if Kay lives with him.
I don't know, because that's House of Uncle Shen.
Oh, yeah.
It's not House of Uncle Shen and Kay.
No,
so who knows, yeah.
So Kay might be like homeless for all we know.
So one of the most important details about this game is that obviously me and Connor played this quite early on in the life of The List Goes On, which is now 4 years old, which is depressing.
Oh, God.
So I haven't played this game in 4 years. So I did resolve to play a little bit of it today, and I went through all these sections, and that's why I'm able to quote all these specific parts of the game. And my God, this is just like... Every piece of dialogue in this game makes my heart sink a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, they all talk in this really weird, disconnected way. And Kay's voice actor is trying his best to do something, but he really can't pull it off.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that they basically said to Kay's voice actor, try and do a Harrison Ford. Try and be like a sort of like aloof, kind of smug, stylish, suave guy. And he was like, all right, sure, I'm like 15. Okay. And it's not very good.
No, all of Kay's dialogue is very lethargic and kind of weirdly hollow sounding in a weird way. Like he's being recorded from very far away.
I feel like it might be a direction thing because he does try in a few points. There's a few points where like, okay, show more emotion here. This is a really shocking thing that's happening, but it's like, they took the first take and moved on, I think.
Yeah, they did not have any time for this. Like,
no, absolutely not. But one thing I also want to point out about this dialogue is how much swearing is in it.
Yeah, so the thing that made me spit out whatever it was I was imbibing at the time is that you have to go deliver a message to the rat encampment. And you go up to it and you talk to this rat who's guarding it, and he calls you a pussy boy. And like, I know it was a 2005 family game, so they probably didn't mean pussy to mean what it obviously means to an adult, but it's just the fact that Kay is delivering this message and this rat just goes, "Hey, pussy boy," and it's like, whoa!
I'm not convinced.
Yeah,
because
maybe
there's
not.
other points where Kay says that the rats are bastards.
I mean, this game is rated 12.
It's rated 12.
For violence.
Yeah, not for bad language.
No, for violence.
Shadow the Hedgehog gets a 12 for damn. Legend of Kay gets away with
but
pussy
lips
boy.
over here can't swing a 15.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. They thought, like, that's the thing. It's like, oh, is it just the artist being clever? No, absolutely not. It's such a weird thing as well. I mean, I played this when I was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I didn't know what these words meant.
No, you're just like, oh, he means like a cat.
Yeah, exactly. I took it as that
Yeah.
when I was a kid. To be fair, though, I used to play it without subtitles, so half of the dialogue I didn't even understand anyway. Because
Is that because of all the really offensive Chinese accents?
Yeah, no, the really thick accents. Like, the rats are given these really thick kind of
exactly what you would think they would be, exactly.
Exactly. The rabbits are a bit like it as well.
I mean, most of the cats in Cat Village, which it's so creatively called, are either American or like generic American, like, you know, like voice acting American. They're either that, they're either really, really Chinese to the point that you kind of like look, you can't sit very comfortably while you're listening to it.
Oh, no.
And there's one girl who's just Southern.
Yeah.
Who's like, oh, hey, Kay, come and ride the boar.
Yeah, because they're just like, okay, here's some farmer characters.
Yeah.
Make them Valley Girls.
Yeah, that's how you know.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's also one guy in Cat Village. He's just standing by some rocks, and he's one of the first NPCs that you see when you leave House of Uncle Shen. And you go up to him and he just says, "Oh, hi, Kay. I'll teach you how to bounce off the walls when you have learned how to ride the boar and won the race." And I was just like, the boar? The race? Okay, I guess I'll go find that.
That's the most video gamey man.
Cat Village has a real energy to it.
It really does. And this is why I'm convinced that, like, why I dropped it so early when I was a kid. Because every other game I had at this point in time was, guess what? It's fucking Crash Bandicoot. Just run
Shadow
along
the Hedgehog
beach.
is having you race through Metropolis City at full speed, you know? Like, even though it's janky as shit, it's still exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking Fire Warrior starts off with everyone getting Saving Private Ryan off the dropship, and like Dawn of War has like you dropping into a war zone instantly. There's stuff happening. Legend of Kay goes, talk to the mayor, and then talk to the rat camp where they will call you pussy boy.
Then find Atan's free pumpkins.
Yeah, no, straight up, you deliver this message to the fucking mayor, who is himself a pussy boy.
Yeah.
Because he's just bending over backwards for the gorillas and the rats. You then go to train with your master, learn some basic moves, get given a wooden sword that Kay's really mad about because it's not real. And then immediately you leave, and then you talk to Uncle Shen, and he goes, "Listen, there's a lady who needs some pumpkins. Go get them."
And the thing about Aitan that I find striking is that she is a pumpkin saleswoman, apparently. You go into her storehouse and it's full to the brim with pumpkins, and yet she's panicking because she's lost 3 of them.
Yeah.
And she's like, what am I going to do about my pumpkins? I'll be destroyed for this, Kay.
Without these 3 pumpkins.
So I need you to go and bribe our colonial oppressors with a banana that I have in my pumpkin storehouse for some reason.
No, that's also the thing, is it's like, alright, you find a banana and you just wave it in front of a gorilla and he goes, alright, I'll look the other way, pal.
No, the thing, you go to talk to him and Kay's like, hey, banana poop, let me through this gate. And he's like, no, I will never let you through a gate. This is against our most crucial laws. But if you had a banana, I would let you through. And then you go back to talk to Aitan, and she's like, all right, have this banana. And it's got like one of those stickers on it.
Yeah.
Like the blue stickers that you have in actual bananas. And it's like, oh, is this like a grocery thing? Like,
yeah, no, fun fact, this was second place after Super Monkey Ball for being sponsored by Dole Bananas.
100%, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it would have been all over it. As far as the story goes, you just fuck around in Cat Village for a while.
Yeah.
A big boar attacks, you fight him off.
His name is Boarax.
His name is Boarax.
Yeah. It's like if you were called the Great Humano.
The Great Humano.
Yeah.
Oh, what a boss that would be.
Human.
Hugh Man. I mean, isn't that why Hugh Jackman is called what he is? Because he's a huge jacked man?
Yeah.
I thought that was why his, parents just had the foresight.
Yeah.
But you train more with the master, you end up fighting him, and then in one of these cutscenes, the gorillas set up a conference in front of the master and Kay, just to the two of them to say, by decree of Minister Shun, we have shut down this terrorist
Yeah, they
school.
call it a terrorist camp. Like it's like Al-Qaeda training for terrorist attacks, and it's just an old drunk man and a cat.
Yeah, like there's a microphone.
Yeah. And they have the mayor come up, and the mayor like introduces Minister Shun, and it's just like, what are we doing? Like, so official.
Towards just two fucking guys as well.
Who's a drunk?
Yeah, and then the master just says, all right, well...
I give up, I'm going home.
At which point Kay is like, you know what? No, I've had enough of
that's
this.
his call to action. That's his impetus for journeying.
Yeah, he sneaks into the master's house, steals a real sword, then sneaks out of the cat camp, and decides he is going to liberate the island of Yenqing single-handedly.
And thus the legend of Kay begins.
Yes. Now, this is where I want to get to with this, right?
Okay, yeah.
Su Ling is like, listen, let's just follow the way. That will get rid of the gorillas and rats if we're all united and under a common cause.
And like the way is a very generic, like disciplined life kind of thing where you like do things that are right and reject things that are bad and all that. That claptrap.
Kay then says, fuck that, that's stupid. I want to hit them all with a sword.
I have a really good sword.
Guess which outcome wins?
It's the big sword.
Yeah, everyone else involved in this fight against the gorillas does nothing. The most...
Su Ling gets a boat for you.
Su Ling builds a boat for you, and don't get me wrong, it's a big boat.
It is a very impressive boat, yeah.
But you kill everyone.
Yeah, you single-handedly lay waste to the entire conquering army using a lot of sick combo moves.
Yeah, that's how that story goes, which I'm just like, what are you trying to say, Kay?
Yeah, we really have nothing else to say about the story, because that's kind of it. Like, Kay decides he's gonna defeat the gorillas and the rats, and then he does.
Yeah, he goes through 12 colourful worlds or whatever, and then fucking, like...
It's not like there's like an arc where he gets to his lowest point and then he redeems himself. No, he just wins.
Yeah, he finds Su Ling later, and they kind of, like, make up, and I think they fall in love.
And like Su Ling's joined like a terrorist group or something, like a secret splinter cell.
Freedom fighters.
The Freedom Fighters. Yeah. In the Panda City. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have things to say about.
We have many things about to say. Is it called the Forbidden City?
The Forsaken City.
Come now, what are we doing? The Forsaken City.
Yeah, it's just the Forbidden City.
Yeah, come on now.
It's very on the nose of its inspirations.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it even says on the back of the box it's got a lot of fun allusions to pop culture.
Yeah, apparently.
Which I guess if Woody Wilson is pop culture now, to me maybe.
I mean, I feel like they're kind of trying to sell it on like a thing of, hey, do you like martial arts movies? You'll like this game, and it does the combat in a way that's fun.
100%. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it has that much else to kind of share in terms of pop culture.
Yeah.
Anything.
The only thing you've got to know about the back of the box is that it says this is a very funny game. Which when a game has to announce that, it is not very funny.
No.
I would say this game is also not very funny at all.
No, it really isn't. Delivery is not good.
No, Kay is just not up to the task of giving any of his snazzy lines properly.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, that's one of the longest running jokes we had with this game, right, is the Crocodile Kay shtick.
Yeah, at one point you fight some crocodiles and Kay goes, well, you guys better watch out because Crocodile Kay's coming. And ever since then, you refuse to refer to him as anything but Crocodile Kay.
That's who he is in my heart, Crocodile Kay, And he says it with such little energy. It's impressive. I don't know how he managed it. It's truly peak, like, phoning it in.
Yeah, fucking hell. But I'll tell you what about this actor who plays Kay. He's been in nothing else since.
Find out more next week.
Next week?
Yeah, when we ask them the question of is the Legend of Kay voice actor a sex pest? It's critical work we're doing.
When we do our research on the matter.
Yeah, we're going to do some investigative journalism. It's going to be incredible.
No, I think this guy retired undefeated. I think he decided
yeah, he was like, I have done all that can be achieved in this field.
Yeah, which to be fair, from looking at IMDb, I think every actor in this game did that. They like only a few of them have more roles than other things.
Yeah, would you hire the people from Legend of Kay?
No.
It's like if you like got an interview request from the people who did the voice acting in Resident Evil 1, you'd be like, oh, I won't call you back. Like, I'd love to meet you, but
I'd love to see this game redubbed by the entire Dawn of War cast. I want to see Steve Bloom voice Uncle Shen.
Alright, well, you can get to work on that.
Yeah, I'll make some calls.
Yeah, if you get that done before next time, that'd be great. Yeah.
All right, got it. I'll call my agent.
That could be our big surprise at the awards.
We bring on Steve Bloom
Yeah.
to read the Legend of K script.
There you go, it'd be perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But then we bill it as the entire cast returns from The Legend of K. But it's just Steve Bloom reading every line.
It's like a one-man show.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be good.
The headliner of Legend of K is not its story. That is not what got me interested in this as a kid, as you can tell by our enthusiasm for it.
Is it not the incredible world building?
No.
What did we write on the thing for the world building?
We just called it the Immaculate World of Yenching. Which...
It's immaculate. There are rats and gorillas and they're bad.
Yeah. The rats are evil alchemists.
And they're conniving and tricksy.
Indeed.
Whereas the gorillas only care about power.
Indeed.
And banana.
And these two things clash to create a horrible mix of interests that end up potentially dooming the entire island of Yenching.
There's a lot of court intrigue, like a lot of political drama.
Let's talk about the combat.
The combat is definitely the most developed part of the game.
Yeah.
I'd say the most impressive part, even.
Yeah, no, this game has a pretty decent combat system. This is a third-person, somewhat top-down game, which has a pretty decent fluid combat system. You have your basic combos. You can do, like, crouch attacks, jumps attacks, somersaults, blocks. You can roll behind enemies to do sneak attacks.
You've even got directional blocking as well, right?
You do, yeah. You have directional blocking on enemies around you. There's a magic system, which is where you spin your weapon around. You kind of, like, charge up this energy around all the enemies
Like
around
an AoE
you.
attack, yeah.
Yeah, then you strike upwards, strike this big arc of lightning into the sky. It strikes everyone around you and does a bunch of damage to all of them.
Which they just never explain.
No,
Like why you can do that. You just can.
Well, this is the thing about that world building, right? Is that we talk about how it's so skin deep and everything. And then your master will say something like, by the way, these are the zhongs. They contain the trapped
The
energies.
eternally damned souls of the dead. Like, it's like, oh, great.
And it's like, if you break them, you will absorb their power and become stronger. And, it's
And
like,
they're like fucking everywhere. It's like if there were just coffins everywhere.
Yeah.
You just have to walk past them every day and be like, oh, there are the dead souls. Like, great.
Yeah. There's also a demon world that's just there.
There's a demon world that's just there.
Like, your first encounter with the demon world is a rabbit pops up out of nowhere and says, hey, if you drink this potion, you can go into a demon world sometimes.
Yeah, what do you think?
Go have fun with that.
Check you later.
And
Like,
it's...
do I have to go there to progress? No.
No, it's entirely optional. But the combat system's actually, like, quite engaging, all things considered.
Yeah,
It's
the
quite
combat
fluid.
system is engaging enough that you can have a demon world full of combat encounters and it works.
Yeah.
Like, it has enough depth to support that level of complexity.
Yeah, and there's a decent bit of enemy variety as well. The rats and gorillas are a thing, but they're also joined by other enemies. Like, there are these, like, flying bugs you'll find. There's
a bear, like a bear in armor that they never explain where he comes from.
Yeah, there's bears. Like, at one point, there's as part of this game being so funny, there's an encounter where a rat and 4 bears are around, and the rat goes, "You better get ready for the 3 bears plus 1," and it's like, what?
That is really funny.
Yeah, who wrote this?
He wrote this. I don't know. Christoph Stevenson.
Oh, they have the credits in the back. We
didn't know that earlier. I love your showmanship.
We can start a lynch mob.
A lynch mob.
Yeah,
I'm really busy.
What are you doing this weekend?
Oh no, shut. I'm doing nothing.
Oh, okay.
I just don't want to hunt down the Legend of Cayman.
You know what? Since we're out of the staff, we're not going to perform a lynch mob on the writer of Legend of K. We've decided against that.
Okay.
Legend of K, my beloved.
What a small mercy for us.
There's like crocodiles, as we mentioned before. There are these turtles that are definitely not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Definitely not. Don't check.
And there's different sort of like layers of the combat as well when it comes to armored and unarmored enemies.
There's a lot of mechanics at play here.
Yeah.
Like there's enemies that you have to like circle around or do somersault attacks on or break their armor in certain ways or do combat attacks or combo attacks to hit them.
Yeah. I think actually that's something I think is decently compelling about this is the combo system. Because we briefly mentioned about the zhongs.
The tortured souls of the damned, yes.
Yeah, that float around. When you break one of those, or when you kill an enemy, you will gain a combo, which is effectively you absorbing their life force. When you get that, you're then able to jump between enemies instead of blocking. When you jump, it makes you invincible, so it's like a replacement for blocking. You can zip around, strike someone, knock them down, gain more combo, jump to another guy, and another guy, and another guy. And it's a legitimate strategy to go into fights where there's a bunch of really weak enemies, like, say, the bugs. You kill one of them, deal with all of those, build up a bigger and bigger combo so you hit harder against the gorillas or the bears or any of the bigger enemies like that.
It's honestly really, really fun. I might make a slightly bold claim here and say that the combat in Legend of K, for this game, for this genre, it might be one of the best of its kind.
Yeah.
Because it actually is really in-depth and is really complicated and it keeps itself fun throughout the entire game.
Yeah. This is what won me over. We've been fairly sort of like negative or at least mocking of Legend of K as a game for its sort of presentation and its
Well, it's really
theming.
funny.
Yeah. It's a very funny game, as they've
yeah.
listed. But the thing that actually kept me hooked on it and made me really enjoy it as a kid, and even when I revisit it, is I do have a lot of fun with that combat system. And even as an adult, I just find ways to do it faster and faster and go further and further with it. It's why I wanted to speedrun it as a kid. I don't so much now, because I've just found that speedrunning is not something that interests me, but I could see it working for other people on that front.
Yeah.
I guess it's also worth mentioning that although Kay is presented with a sword, he does unlock 2 other weapons later. One of which is a pair of claws, which are stupidly good against unarmored enemies.
Yeah, because you just kind of, you attack with the claws very, very quickly, so you just kind of like stun lock people into oblivion.
Yeah, like the sword has like a 1, 2, 3 strike. The claws, it's like 8 hits.
It's like,
and you do so
it's like
much
being
damage.
scratched by your actual cat when you try and pick it up.
Yeah. It's also a weapon.
I get stun locked, I'm just like, ah!
Yeah. It's also a weapon that works in water, which is not used very well at all. It's very, very niche. One point I got stuck at as a kid was actually when you're trying to learn to go through water and things. You have to cut down this bamboo to go further ahead.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I could do that, and I got stuck on it.
Yeah.
The thing is that those sound really good, but when you get to the point where you have claws, most enemies are armored.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You need to use something else to break the armor off them, then
Do you get a
swipe
hammer?
with the claws. You do get a hammer as your
that's
third
it,
weapon. The hammer is the one that's better for its niches. Like, when you get the hammer, it's in the Forsaken City, where you have this, like, terracotta army that you're fighting. And the hammer breaks them apart really easily. Like, it's really good for that. And it also breaks open, like, platforms that are weak. It's one of those kinds of weapons.
Yeah, definitely.
And
it's got both combat and platforming utility.
it does, yeah. And as a result of that, you can swap between those weapons pretty quickly and
Is it what button combination? Is that like D-pad or L1, R1? Like
I think it's I want to say R1.
R1, great.
Because I think L1 is for items, which we can mention now. There's a small number of items you get too. There's the classic sort of restore health and restore magic and that kind of thing, but there's the Berserk Potion, which sets your weapons on fire and makes you do more damage,
Yeah,
which is...
definitely got me through a lot of those late game encounters.
Yeah, it's the most useful item, in my opinion. It's the
I
best
think
one.
from what I can recall of our playthrough, I actually used to grind money for the so I could buy Berserk Potions, because I wasn't very good at the combat, so I just bought one of those and was like, alright, here we go.
Yeah, no, that's a legit strat. I think that's the way you want to go with
You
it.
can also get the bomb.
The bomb that you plant, that's a Zelda-style bomb. You just blows the fuck... It's an incredibly loud and prominent sound effect when it plays as well.
Is it crunchy?
Yes, it's very crunchy. There's even levels where you're in like a canyon and you hear bombs going off all the time, and it's like being in a war zone. You're like, Jesus fuck me. Things are falling around everywhere. What the fuck? It's overstimulating, but
Yeah, and you were a very easily stimulated child as well.
I mean, I had autism. I say had, I still do.
Yeah, you found the cure.
The cure was Legend of K.
It was Legend of K, tell your kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
A miracle ingredient by now.
It's like the reverse vaccine.
The reverse vaccine. You inject K into your vein.
It makes you more susceptible to illnesses, but you are free of autism, so kind of a trade-off, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
There's also these bottles of hornets.
I forgot about the hornets, yeah.
The main thing with them is that they just kind of like stun your enemies a bit so you can then hit them easier.
Button them up, yeah.
There's also like this swamp level later where there's hornets flying around everywhere, so if you deploy your own bottle, the hornets will mingle, they'll merge together, and they'll be friendly. So
it's like a Dead Rising thing.
Yeah, a little bit like that. So you basically just, if you have to walk really far in the swamp, you're just like, cool, I'll buy a bottle of hornets, open it, and just walk through the level really quick, and I'm fine.
That's surprisingly versatile for a game of this type.
Yeah,
you can interact with the environment in that way.
Yeah, I like that as a utility a lot. I'm not sure if hornets in real life work like that.
Well, but
that's still a fun use of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And then there's other things that are more niche, like the demon potion, which is just, there might be a demon portal in this area. If you drink the potion, you can see them for a minute, and if you see them, you can go into them.
Or what do you get? Do you get like money for doing the demon levels?
Yeah, they're like these sub-levels where there's normally lots of money in there. For instance, if you're in a part of the game where it's primarily copper, you'll find silver in there, and then higher and higher up. But you will find that there are also demons in there, which are very hard to deal with.
Ooh.
I've never actually beaten the demons in that game, primarily because the demon portals are optional. I can barely find the fucking things.
Yeah, and it's like, am I really here to optimize my K playthrough? Like,
yeah.
I just want to fight a rat and then be done with it.
I mean, that's kind of a thing about this game that's worth delving into, is that it has a very big mentality of, we want to make an arcade-style game where you're doing a single run and there's no backseas.
Yeah.
Because
you also get, like, points, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you get, like, point modifiers and stuff.
Yeah, there's little collectibles to multiply the points that you get from killing enemies and collecting treasure and all of this stuff. It's primarily, the main function of it is just that you unlock more stuff in the extras.
Yeah.
It's really just a for glory thing.
Like, it's kind of weirdly, like, discordant, where it's like, the game is trying to be this, like, not immersive, but this kind of narrative-based adventure game. But then also you're getting sick combos and points and stuff, and it feels a little out of place with those two elements.
Yeah, it really is. And if anything, I think it's at its detriment, because you don't go back to previous environments in this. This is a linear A to B journey.
Yeah, it's not like you can like replay levels to try and get better scores and stuff. And I actually think in the anniversary version they added leaderboards to the game, which is just like, in Legend of K, what are we doing? Like,
yeah. Honestly, I feel like even for a game this obscure, the leaders are probably people who've hacked the game.
Yeah, 100%,
but
yeah.
It's still one of those cases of
one day I'll beat those Resident Evil 1 speedrunners who have got 0 seconds on the clock, and I'm like, I'll get them one day.
I just feel like those leaderboards make more sense than what they probably intended was for you to go to your water cooler and be like, hey, guess what? I got 12,000 points at the end of Legend of K. And they're going to be like, what?
I mean, to be fair, you know that every time I get a good Resident Evil speedrun, I send a picture to you, like, oh, look how cool I am.
I know.
You send a thumbs up, and I'm like, yeah.
I mean, I don't think I have a time tracker like that for Legend of K, but I'd be sending similar if we were friends
I'd
at the age.
appreciate that, yeah. You just send me your Fire Emblem Fates playtime, and I weep. I'm just like, what are you doing?
How much of Fates I've played for what I think of it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that'll be an episode.
A really long episode.
Oh god. That's kind of the main draw, I would say, of the game.
Yeah, because the rest of it is a lot of, I would say, very by-the-numbers platforming. It's like, oh, you can jump over these platforms that will collapse, or there are ropes that you can swing from platform to platform. And none of it's really that memorable or well done. It's all just kind of enough, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a few points where they try to lean onto that sort of martial arts vibe that they're going for, where it's like, cool, you jump between walls, and you like...
Yeah, I like how you can use the demon statue things to, like, do platforming. Like, you can, like, jump up walls or go across canyons using them. That's quite fun.
Yeah.
Although I think it is slightly awkward how it's just you have to hit, like, 5 floating things in the air.
Yeah.
Like, it makes it look less cool, because you have to constantly stop to hit them, and it's like, what am I doing? Like,
I think that gets worse when they make stronger ones of those, so you have to hit them multiple times. And it's just like, well, the fun of that is
zipping across the sky, rather than having to stop to hit a thing.
Yeah, when you have to hit them 3 times in a row. And there's sometimes these optional unlockable challenges of, cool, a number of the Zhongs are going to spawn. You need to break these within a certain span of time and you'll get a heart container, or you'll get an item or a life. And... nah.
Yeah.
They're completely...
I can imagine a world in which the platforming in this game had a real quickened pace to it, where you were doing a lot of acrobatic moves in a combo, one after the other, to go up heights that you couldn't previously go up.
Yeah.
Where that platforming could have been as interesting as the combat, but they just made a bunch of weird design decisions that didn't make it sing as much as it should have done.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it slow and kind of awkward, and there's no real pizzazz to it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Legend of K has a lot of missed potential, although I think that's to be expected from a game that had this budget and scope.
Yeah, exactly.
This was made
definitely feels like a game that was made to be like, hey, we have Zelda at home. Like,
yeah. I'm not sure if this was someone's passion project, because the studio is quite obscure, and it ended up.
All up here for Neon Entertainment, the fine purveyors of Legend of K,
and Joe Wood Productions.
I've never heard that before in my life.
Never.
My God,
never either. But it's an interesting one nonetheless. So, just looking briefly at this incomprehensible list, Ash, what do you make of the mouthfeel?
The mouthfeel in this game, alright, this is the thing about this game that's going to be the most difficult to describe, because this game has a very particular feel to it that might be unique to me, where it just feels... This game feels like video game oatmeal. You eat it, and you think to yourself, I have satisfied my nutritional requirements for the day, but I feel nothing.
Oatmeal's such a good comparison, because I feel like as a kid, it would be my oatmeal with berries in it. I'm like, oh, I've made something healthy out of this.
There you go, yeah.
But I feel like to so many people, it's like, it's just fucking oatmeal.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to describe because it's very much couched in a very specific era of games. But I'm sure to all of our listeners, who I presume are the same age as we are, like, you all remember the PS2.
Yeah.
You all remember playing an infinite number of games that played like this, that felt like this. This game feels like if you took every single one of those, melted them down in a big pot, and made them into one giant porridge. And you ate it and you went, yep, that was all those things.
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't created a game that's the sum of all those parts. It's just the thing that is that thing.
Yeah.
And when you're playing it, you just kind of feel that weight behind it. Even though the game itself isn't exemplary or significant. But you feel like it represents such an era in games so well just by being a mediocre version of it.
Yeah.
That playing it always felt weird to me.
That's the thing, and I feel like that's the impression that leaves on a lot of people. If you look at the critical reviews of this, the highest reviews it ever got was when it first came out, and whenever it would be ported afterwards, everyone was just kind of go, why would we be playing this? There are other games like it that are better.
We have so far moved past this era of games, but there's something to be said about a game that so perfectly represents a fine version of that. The games that you go back to from that era of that star, right? It'd be like your Mario Sunshines or your Jak and Daxters or Ratchet and Clanks or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you'd go back to them and they wouldn't necessarily tell you enough about how games were of that time because they were the highest production, the most high quality, unique versions of those games. Whereas The Legend of K is that exactly. Like, rendered entirely to its purest form with no flourish or pizzazz to it. It's just that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important in a weird way, even though I wouldn't say this game is good because of it. It's just important because of that.
Yeah.
It's like if you played like a game from the 7th gen that was a Gears of War shooter, but it wasn't Gears of War, but it was just that. And it told you all you needed to know about games of that era.
Yeah.
Like if you played Medal of Honor.
Oh, the 2010.
Warfighter.
Oh, Warfighter
or the 2010 one, you know?
Yeah.
But that game isn't good, but that game is games of that era.
Yeah, it's almost definitive in that way. This game found its perfect ideal target audience in me because I was someone that couldn't afford to play lots of games like this, so I got my one and I was fine with that.
Yeah, exactly. You know? It served that purpose perfectly.
Yeah. Even though I had like the PlayStation 2 Crashes and Spyros at this point, like this was slightly different and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a GameCube to actually play Zelda. I wasn't.
No one in the UK had a GameCube. Let's not be silly.
I guess we could talk about just a few of the smaller sections that kind of stand out a bit because there's a fairly bog standard affair of level selections and environments and that kind of thing here.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are one and two little quirks about them that do jump out to us for one reason or another. For some reason, we remembered the best out of all the bosses, Boarax.
Boarax, the lovable boar.
Yeah, it's just a big pig.
He's a really big pig. He seems to have some kind of magical amulet implanted in his neck.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's making him angrier than he usually is.
I think it is, because I think the implication is the rats put that into giant monsters to make them attack people?
It's part of their chemical warfare.
Yeah. It's like, I guess it's something for K to fight, though.
Yeah, definitely. It's like an early game villain, where it's not anything actually significant to the plot. Yeah. It's a crazy boar.
Yeah.
I actually think Boarax is the first thing you actually fight in the game.
He is, yeah. Like, they throw a boss at you rather than an enemy at first, and he really is just the most basic sort of, you get him to charge into a wall, he gets
stuns him, and then you hit him a few times.
Yeah.
I think you actually grab him, don't you?
Yeah, you can do a grab move with him. Sometimes he'll flash his neck up as well, and you can hit him during that. But he's a super basic bitch boss. But they build him up so much because he leaves your first encounter. You go through an entire.
He's like a Mr. X type deal where he's like a persistent nemesis throughout the entire game. It's like, watch out for Boarax.
Yeah, if Mr. X turns up twice. Oh, Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 remake.
I gotta hurt me like this. I gotta stick a dagger deep into my heart.
Yeah, that's what he is. He's on par with Nemesis from the 3 remake. Because you fight him all the fucking twice.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's just that first fight and then the actual fight with Boarax.
Yeah. He's the ending of the rabbit section, basically.
Right, yeah. The industrious rabbits.
Yeah. But that's kind of because the other bosses are not as interesting.
No.
There's a big turtle, there's a giant statue, there's a big sea monster.
The dragon you have to chase around for a bit.
Yeah, you have to... That dragon sucks,
That dragon
by the
fucking
way.
blows, yeah. Because you're going through his, like, lair, like his horde.
Yeah, he just spits fire at you because he thinks you're a rat, because his place is too dark for him to see. And then as soon as you get up to him, it plays this janky cutscene of him slithering away.
Yeah.
And then you keep going after him, and all of the places inside of the dragon's lair are called, like, dragon's throat, dragon's gullet, dragon's stomach, all these kinds of things. And you clearly can see the point where they realize, We can't call the end level Dragon's Anus, because it's just called Dragon's End and Dragon's Backyard.
There you go.
At the end of it.
The Dragon's backyard where he hangs out his washing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it is, because that's right at the end of his lair, and it has, like, cool music for some reason, and it's really dark, and that's where you fight Boarax, and it feels like a weird climax of an incredibly mid section of the game.
Yeah, you'd know all about the music.
Oh my god, yeah.
Connor has the soundtrack downloaded twice. In MP3 and FLAC form.
Listen, I run D&D games, and sometimes you just need some generic fantasy music, and Legend of K gives me that in spades.
That's the best he can do.
Yeah. Well, listen, what if I told you that soundtrack was made by Jake Kaufman, the composer...
The creator of Shovel Knight?
The composer of Shovel Knight.
Wow.
He did this 9 years before Shovel Knight.
And which was the better soundtrack?
I don't know, it's really hard to say.
I also want to let it be known, or just let this information hang out there, that that's presumably the only thing anyone listening to this podcast knows about your D&D games is that they have Legend of K music in them.
So it sets a certain impression.
And I want you to think that's indicative of the quality. It's not actually, but just think that for me.
Yeah, just have the mental image.
Yeah.
It's funnier that way. The rabbit area is the most sort of intrinsic starting outside of, like, your starting village area.
Yeah, it's a forest.
It's a big forest.
Yeah.
The rabbits live in the Shire under a big tree.
Yeah, they're very ineffective.
Yeah. It's the first example, actually, of that game doing this weird thing where it has lots of these linear, just A to B levels, and then it will have an open section where it's like, cool, you now have to go through, like, 15 gates to go and activate several things.
It's very confusing, because the way the levels are designed is that they're either very linear or they're very open.
Yeah.
And when you're doing the linear ones, it does that old video game thing where it has long corridors, where it's obviously loading something.
Yeah.
But then you get into areas where it's kind of a giant expanse, and it's like, why does your engine not support not having these long corridors then? Like, what do you need those for?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
It's really weird, and it makes me wonder what came first, you know?
Like, maybe the game isn't even loading, they just think that's what games have.
Yeah.
They're like, games just have long corridors for you to go down. Like, what do you want from us?
Which, to be fair, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of merit to be said about making a game that's linearly designed to have a really tight platform or a really focused combat experience. But K doesn't use it for that.
No, it's just you go down it, and that's it.
Yeah, when you get into combat in K, a rat will shake a stick, it'll make a magic barrier that puts you in an arena,
Yeah.
you kill everyone inside, and then it's lifted, and...
Yeah, just like Bayonetta.
Just like Bayonetta. This game is just like Bayonetta.
It's just like Bayonetta, yeah.
I'm imagining this game with the Bayonetta soundtrack over it.
That would be fun. Yeah, I'd like that.
That would be fun. You know, it's almost like when you're making a game focused around fighting. You want to have
good fight music would be good. Yeah,
great music, great visuals, really great flair.
Well, honestly, the way you were describing the combat did bring to mind to me Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry has that score multiplier as well, and Devil May Cry has those like sub-dimensions where you do combat challenges, like the Demon World.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that what we're doing now? Like,
maybe that's what they were trying to kind of...
Because like DMC even has directional blocking. So it's just like, is that what they were going for? Because hats off to them if that's the case. Like,
it was a monumental task and they didn't succeed.
No, but it was still funny.
Yeah.
So.
That's very funny. I think this game could have done a lot better if it just focused on its combat section and maybe dropped its platforming.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because the platforming is very rote.
It's completely by the numbers.
Completely forgettable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the races.
The races.
Let's go to the wacky races.
Yes. There's a few points in this game that are punctuated by these weird races you have to do where you ride on a boar, a dragon, or a wolf.
Yeah.
And normally it's just a case of there's a gate with a key on it. To get the key, you have to win a race. You have to find this random animal, ride on it through these gates. You have to collect food to make sure that you keep this little bar up.
Yeah,
it keeps this little bar up to make sure you can keep riding it. Or you collect chilies that makes the animals go faster. For such simple mechanics, it's weirdly demanding. There's a timer in most cases.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain we spent maybe an hour on one of the boar races when we were doing our playthrough.
Yeah, it's very easy to just stumble upon kind of hard to see obstacles, like crash into them. There's like a drift mechanic, which is essential for doing the wolf ones.
Yeah, because the walls are like faster, I think, and they're harder to control.
They are, yeah. They're also in the old palace, where there's like spiders where when they bite you, they invert your controls. So
a lot of memories are coming back to me.
Yeah, it becomes even harder to do that one. It's kind of a fun distraction.
Oh yeah, it breaks up the gameplay for certain, although I don't necessarily feel... I wish that the wolves, the boars, and the dragon had more mechanical differences between them. Like, I wish they were more distinct from one another, because they kind of end up kind of blending together in a certain sense.
Yeah, the dragon is the most distinct because it's an actual flying level.
Yeah.
And it's also the only race you can't revisit at the end of the game.
It's a damn shame.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, this is a kind of a linear adventure when you go from one place to another place to another place. You can't revisit environments in this game. Except for the races where it's just, you've now unlocked the boar race in the forest.
Yeah,
forever.
if you want to do the boar races to your heart's content, let that while away your precious youth, then go ahead. You do you, champ.
It's very odd where this game's sort of priorities and focuses lie, because I would love to be able to go, cool, I want to revisit the dragon's backyard again.
Yeah, no. Like, maybe I missed a collectible there? You'll never know.
No.
We'll never let you go back.
No, unless
The Legend of K teaches you that you can never go back.
It's truly a game about looking ahead.
It's a game about going forward.
It's we can't live in the past of past glories before the gorillas. We must vanquish the threat before us. It's so deep. Let's talk about Frog City.
Don't want to talk about Frog City.
Then we'll talk about...
No, we have to talk about Frog City. I can't explain Frog City. Alright, so there are 4 races. Like biological races, not like actual races.
There's the wolf one, the boar one.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So there's the disciplined cats, the industrious bunnies,
Yes.
the other ones,
The cheerful frogs.
the cheerful frogs, and
The wise pandas.
the wise pandas. Yeah.
And what I want to say is that these names are meant to be ironic.
Yeah, because the whole point of the cats is that they used to be disciplined and follow the way, but they've become lazy and they've like lost sight of what's important to them. The rabbits are supposed to be industrious, but none of their inventions seem to actually work very well.
Yeah.
The pandas are idiots.
Yeah, and the frogs live in a gloomy swamp.
Well, the frogs used to be cheerful, then they got their village burnt to the ground and all their eggs destroyed, so...
Yeah, they're in the most dire of circumstances.
Yeah.
The frogs feel like how Ba Sing Se is in Avatar.
Yeah.
Not in a literal sense where it's a giant city. That's more like what the pandas have.
No, the city of the frogs is disappointing in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got up to this sort of gloomy swamp area, and I mentioned like, oh, we're going to go to Frog City after we do the swamp level. We'll get to the frog bit.
And I know I've tried my best to impress this upon our listeners before, but we are just not fun playing these games. Like, something about it melts our brains. And, like, I think we were playing K during the summer as well, so I think it was quite hot.
It was right as autumn was starting.
Yeah, so it was quite hot. And we used to play in this tiny spare room in a house that Connor and I used to both live in. Not at the same time, but it was like this, like, tiny shoe cupboard of a room, and it got really hot in there.
Yeah.
And, like, something happens to us playing these games. And so Connor tells me that we're going to be going to a city. And for some reason, I can't comprehend why I thought to say this. I said to Connor, this city better look like the fucking city from the hit animated film Robots, or I'm going to be fucking furious.
You're staring at the screen. I remember this vividly. You're staring at the screen blankly. You're just concentrated on just trying to get to the next fucking part of this because you were not impressed by Legend of K. You were like, let's get this over with. Let's get this past us. I'm in a shit swamp level.
Yeah.
And I want to see something spectacular, mesmerizing. What the fuck won Connor over? And I had to, after you said that, I just sat there looking at you in silence, not knowing how I can continue.
Yeah, no, not knowing how to respond to such a strange request.
Mostly because I didn't want to disappoint you.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too morose, but I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Because the city for the frogs is nothing like the city from Robots. Not even one malm of it is similar in design and function. It's a shitty swamp. It's like a fucking like rickety-ass boat world.
Yeah,
Sucks.
where most of the houses are on like these giant platforms up in the sky.
Yeah. It's like a Louisiana type thing I think they're going for.
I don't think it's well enough defined to
Perhaps
really give
not.
that
Maybe I'm giving it too much credit.
You might be thinking Voodoo Vince.
I'm definitely thinking of Voodoo Vince, a far superior game.
Oh, we going there, are we?
Well, listen, look forward to another 2 years when we talk about Voodoo Vince.
Very important.
Yeah, it's coming, don't you worry.
I was going to say, while we're complaining about swamps, I might want to just make a brief point to mention this.
If you want to go on your swamp diatribe, feel free.
I just want to say that while there are highlights in these in this sort of swampy area of the game, I really want to hear from you viewers if there's been a good, like a swamp level in a game that's been good. Like one that you have enjoyed. One where the elements and mechanics of that swamp world have not been one of the lower points of the game.
See, I have answers, but they're not fair. Because a lot of the games that I like, the actual aesthetics of the locales aren't relevant to the mechanics of the game. Like, there are levels in RPGs that are swamps that I enjoy, but it's an RPG.
Yeah.
It's not like you have swamp controls. You do turn-based fights in them. Like, I think the swamp in Final Fantasy VII is cool because that's where you fight the snake Midgårdsummer. And when you get to the end of it, you see one impaled on a sword by Sephiroth, and it's like, wow, that's a cool little visual for the villain's strength.
Yeah.
But it's a role-playing game. The swamp doesn't matter. It's just a backdrop.
But I think anyone that's played like a Souls game or any kind of like turn-based game where you have to move through like tiles of it, and there's always slowdown effects.
Well, there's swampy mechanics.
Yeah, it's like how every game that's set in a modern day or science fiction setting has to have a shitty sewer that sucks. Every fucking fantasy game has to have a swamp level that sucks as well, and no one seems to have figured out how to make those fun. And that's why I actually want to hear suggestions from the viewers if you've gotten this far.
Yeah. Because we've been curating a 55-strong game list, and we are yet to find a good swamp.
No.
So
we put too much hopes onto Voodoo Vince to give us that Louisiana.
Yeah, Voodoo Vince really disappointed us.
Yeah. This swamp level is a similar case of a linear level leading into a wider kind of sandbox, and the area with the Frog City in it takes forever. You go there at first, it's considered... This is why I compared it to Ba Sing Se. It's considered one of the only, like, free, unsullied places from the rat
Mostly,
stuff.
Presumably, because no one wants to go there because it's so gloomy.
Yeah. And the frog mayor there, who's like a weird little brown, sort of toad-looking guy, doesn't even look like a frog, it looks like a toad. He goes, yeah, you can actually, like, sleep here and rest. Have some
don't
respite.
worry,
Don't be on a constant running quest through this fucking world. You can actually chill out.
Yeah.
And you go and curl up when you go to bed, and you wake up and the entire city is on fire. And,
you have to go save all their unborn children.
Yeah, they go, listen, we have all of our children in these glass bowls in the city. You have to go and save them all from burning to death.
Yeah.
The good news, it's not on a timer. The bad news is it takes for fucking ever anyway.
It does take for fucking ever. And, like, the problem with it is that you're going through all these buildings and they're all on fire, and the path through them to remain unscathed is very unclear. So I think we died a considerable number of times on this level and had to restart it constantly because I would keep jumping into places that seemed safe, but then I would just die of fire damage.
Yeah, it was also a suffocation mechanic in some rooms. They'd normally have like a box on a switch mechanic where you'd have to shove something on a switch, get a certain combination. Which, when you have a timer like that, it does put tension on it that makes those kind of fun.
Yeah.
But having recently played some of the Legacy of Kain games and having to do far too many press the right combination of switches puzzles that just waste your fucking time. It's like a pain in the ass.
Yeah. This is definitely our lowest point, I think, with Legend of K.
Yeah. And it's really not helped by much. Like, you know how I was mentioning there was only like those 3 types of races? I completely forgot there's a boat race at this point.
Is there a boat race?
Yeah.
God.
The boat controls like a boat. It's not that fun to control. The music is kind of chill. It's a weird highlight, despite not being very good.
Yeah.
But
someone on that development team just figured out a racing engine and they were like, we can use this.
Yeah.
This is going to make the game twice as long.
It makes me wonder if there were several projects that combined into this one.
Maybe, yeah.
That's what I suspect, because I don't know what the hell this studio did after or before this. I presume this is the only thing they did and they got bought by someone else.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
For the most part, this is just one of those cases of you got to go to these smaller dungeons in them. That's where you have the crocodile temple. And this is the section of the game that has the most Zelda-like comparisons because you're going into quote-unquote dungeons. Yeah.
Although I wouldn't say they were particularly complex. They're just kind of like a series of boxy rooms.
No, I like the crocodile one. It has this canal in the middle of it that has a current. It opens these little rooms, and depending on what direction the current is flowing, you go into different ones to get the whole dungeon.
Honestly, the swamp area dungeons, maybe it'd be more appropriate to compare them to Tomb Raider levels, where they're more like platforming puzzles, I suppose, in a certain way.
In many cases, yes, they are. Like there's lots of spikes, there's lots of water runways and hazards. It's surprisingly varied in those circumstances.
I think I was probably having the most fun during those sections because they felt the most pure. Yeah, they were just like, enjoy these mechanics in this complex area, go nuts, and I was like, yeah, I will, thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's a kind of a glimmering sort of silver lining among a very cloudy swamp level that was quite boring. After this is then when you get to the Panda World, the Forsaken City, which I remember as a kid, I thought to myself, all right. We have rabbits, frogs, cats, pandas. Yeah. The pandas are going to be fucking huge, right?
Yeah.
We're going to be in like a Ghibli-style world in the Forsaken City. It's going to be this big, elaborate place. The pandas are going to be huge. They're probably going to be slothful, and they're going to be like, that's why they haven't been able to fight off the gorillas. Because the gorillas are huge.
Yeah.
You know, but The rabbits and frogs and cats and everything, they're kind of the same size. So are the pandas. The pandas are like little teddy bear people, and they look weird, and I hate them. And
They
I don't
look like
them.
Spyro NPCs.
They look like bad Spyro NPCs. Like Spyro NPCs have a little bit more.
They're like End of the Dragonfly Spyro NPCs.
Yeah. Like Spyro NPCs are a lot more like squat and stout and charming.
And
Blocky, yeah.
These are just weird guys.
Yeah, these are just weird guys.
They look like you put a Final Fantasy Moogle in the oven too long.
But it is the home of the Resistance, the only place that's actually been trying to fight back against the gorilla.
Yeah, and this is where you find Su Lin, who's been achieving nothing.
Yeah. And there's also all those posters of Panda Che Guevara everywhere.
Yeah.
Which...
Once again, the weird political polls, like...
Yeah, it's like, alright.
Is this a thing we're doing? Like, great.
I always found that kind of fun. But you end up going to the Resistance, and they're all utterly incompetent, and they suck.
Yeah. And they need a legendary 12-year-old boy with a sword to come and save them.
Yeah, they literally go, alright, listen, now that you're here, Kay, you can do all our stuff for us. Talk to this guy, he'll give you a hammer.
And using the hammer,
you can then go into the pot shop, break all the pots on the floor, and then you can do something, I guess.
Yeah, and then victory will be achieved.
Yeah.
It's a complex plan.
And then Su Lin goes, meanwhile, I've got this great plan. We're building a big boat, and we're just
gonna sail to where the rats are.
Yeah, we're gonna sail to the volcano island, and we're gonna take the fight to them. Who's fighting?
Kay.
You're doing it. The rest of us can't do
Honestly,
anything.
we haven't really got to come.
I think it's also worth mentioning that across the level, you find the little animal guys in cages. You cut them out. They do a little victory animation, and then they talk to you, and they go like, "Oh, thanks for helping me. Here's a hint about something in the level." The funniest thing to me is that you free everyone in the Resistance. You go on this big stupid boat. You sail out to the island, and they all immediately get captured again. They all run off and get captured.
Yeah, it's a real Bay of Pigs situation, you know?
Yeah.
They're just very bumbling.
It's fucked. But before you do that big boat quest, you have to go into this ancient palace, which is a weirdly long section of the game.
Yeah, definitely.
You go into the outskirts, the courtyards, the inner sanctum, the lower sanctum. It's this huge dungeon of the game.
I mean, it's a surprisingly long game, clocking in at around 12 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely not a one and done type of game. It's you've really got to commit to it.
I think like people who like skip dialogue and kind of know secrets and things can do it in about 8.
Yeah,
but, like 12 is, I think, a lot more average for
Like, was
most
this
people.
our first 4-session game?
I want to say we did this in 2 or 3 sessions.
Oh, this is when we were better at playing games, and we actually got things done.
Yeah, we didn't go for many secrets. You just kind of gunned it.
Well, no, I mean more it was during COVID and neither of us were employed.
Oh, yeah,
It wasn't, I showed up at 7:30, stayed for like an hour, when I'm sleepy, I have to go back to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to, we had a lot more time.
Our artists wouldn't come into the room and distract us for like 4 hours, so we'd never be going on.
I think the Forsaken City, specifically the palace, is an area of the game I do find kind of fun, even if it's a very bland...
It's just gaming, man. Like, you're going through a big dungeon, solving puzzles, finding secrets, killing enemies. Like, it's just classic.
Yeah, it's lots of platforming and stuff like that. It gives me those kind of Prince of Perjury vibes.
Oh, sure,
bit.
If you want, yeah.
Yeah, if I add a stretch.
Yeah.
But then, once you get through that, I'm going to just double check some extra things.
Well, when you go to the volcano island, isn't it like you're in like a war zone? Well, like the Resistance is like firing cannons at the Gulura's base, and there's like all explosions going off around you, and it's a bit like World War II-y in a weird way.
Yeah, it is a little bit. The entrance to the palace, the abandoned palace, is like that as well. But the beach landing is, in its immediate aftermath, quite clean and calm and everything. It's one of the calmest tracks in the game, is being on the beach. But when you actually get into the base itself, the volcano is erupting and stuff's exploding. There's gorillas.
Rat Alchemist Tack is building his devious machine.
Yeah, there's gorillas and balloons dropping bombs on you and everything. I also want to mention there's a shopkeeper that follows you around.
Yeah, and a little cart,
And you find that cart in the weirdest of places, and it's like, how did you get here?
It's like the merchant in Mario 4, right? It's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, he's just, I'm here to help you, bud.
Yeah, what do you think?
So
check me
good.
out.
Do you want to buy the tip of the day?
No. What are you talking tip of the day? It's a kid's platformer, you dongus. What do you want from me?
I think that ending area is probably the most drawn out part of the game.
100%.
I found it.
My very overriding memory of that entire affair is just being like, why isn't this game over yet?
Yeah.
I want to play Haunting Ground. Let me be free.
Yeah. I mean, you do fight Tack.
You fight Rat Alchemist Tack.
Rat Alchemist Tack.
And I remember this fight being incredibly janky and taking us quite a few tries. Because isn't he building a machine that will make him immortal or something?
Him and Minister Shun, the head of the gorillas, are co-building this machine that will grant them both immortality by... I think that's why they want the fountains. They're trying to get the stone from the fountains and make a big machine out of it because it's magic.
This is what you do,
Yeah, but like you then go and fight Rat Alchemist Tack, and
Alchemist Tack,
that full name, and he just throws a million bombs at you.
He does, it's really infuriating.
And it's I think he's harder than the final boss, to be honest.
I struggled with Rat Alchemist Tack. He was complicated to get through.
When you finally pass him, it's not much longer before you just find Shun himself, and he has Shun has 3 stages. There's one where he's just by his throne and he swings his big weapons at you
then he gets the one wing and then he's it's pretty impressive.
Wow, dang. He's really up there with the best of them, isn't
100%.
he?
And then there's a Shun. Damn.
You face him in that area. He then goes and turns on his dumb machine where he becomes a big monster, and Kay says holy crap because he swears because he's a cool edgy guy. You just beat him again in a really basic bitch way, and then a random gorilla guy who I think is his second in command goes, "No, I'm gonna save you," and he jumps into the machine with the big Shun and becomes an even bigger guy.
Wait, really?
With more arms,
I completely forgot about that.
And there's a weird third thing of that. At this point, you were just whatever. Berserk potion, potion.
Hit him on the head,
Go, get Zhongs.
It's perhaps not my best hour, but...
No, but it was a long slog.
Yeah.
Before...
It's turgid, I would say.
With this great big, final boss music that plays, which... I want to say briefly about the soundtrack. For some reason, the final boss music is listed as Battle 5. Tax is listed as Battle 6.
Maybe that's the order in which Jake Kaufman composed them.
Yeah. That makes the most sense to me.
Right, yeah.
He was like, alright, sure, whatever.
I don't recall a single song from this game, so...
Nah, I mean, it's very baseline.
My brain's tried to do it. I tried to think of a song, and it just did the Avatar ending song. The... Yeah.
Eventually, you beat these guys, you turn off the big volcano machine, and Kay single-handedly saves the entire day. He gets on the big boat. I'm sorry, I hate to fixate on this fucking boat, but they play the title music when they reveal this boat. It's a basic boat. It's like a galleon.
Well, is it like whenever they play the Final Fantasy theme when you go in an airship?
Yeah.
But it's just a boat.
And it's don't get me wrong. 6 stupid little panda men building that is kind of impressive.
Yeah. You couldn't do that.
I couldn't do that. I shouldn't. I'm kind of talking real mad shit for someone who's never built a boat in my life. Yeah. It's okay, cool. You've made a normal ass boat. You're gonna take it from A to B.
Well, what other sweeping moments of glory are you going to play the title theme for during The Legend of Kay? It's not like there's a lot of big moments for you to do that with.
Probably fighting the final boss. Or
because that needs to be this is a battle of the ages. Whereas that's you're launching your assault against the villains, you know?
Yeah, but it's so limp because it's just hey, we finished our boat. Here's a shot of a boat sitting in a harbour. And Kay goes, wow, that's a big boat. And they all get on.
I'm not arguing that it's good. I'm just saying that's when you should have done it.
Yeah.
They should have just done it better.
There's a lot they should have done better.
Yeah.
That's the way we go with this game, but...
It's a very weirdly flaccid game.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of big moments, I suppose.
I mean, the very end of the game is I think it's implied that Su Ling and Kay are going to kiss, and then the merchant comes in and says, would you like to buy a thing? And they go, wait a minute, and they take his hat off, and he was the master the whole time.
Whoa.
And it's oh my god, the only other old man cat we know.
Then you buy a tip from him, and it just says, don't have sex before marriage. That's the end of Kay. That was the moral of the story.
Well, listen... Cats have barbed penises, right? You need...
Don't talk to me about Kay's penis, please. It's not the content I need right now.
If you want to find out more about Kay's penis, I've got the site for you.
Listen, the list... Of course you do, yeah. It's run by you.
Whoa! How dare you accuse me of owning the domain kayspenis.com? The legend of Kay's penis.
This is when we have to announce that The List Goes On is rated 12+ for violence. That's what we've got from Peggy. It's a picture of a fist on Connor's head. Beautiful.
Alright, well, that's making it into the final cut.
There you go.
And
that one should be Patreon only. You got to pay for that goodness.
If you're a $10 patron, you'll get a picture of Kay's penis. If you want it, not unsolicited.
Yeah.
That's when we get to end credits. It goes through the whole thing, as all credits do.
And we get the most important message of our lives.
Kay will return.
I'm not sure if we have to make it clear to the listeners, There is no Legend of K2.
No.
They straight up lied to us.
No. This game, I think, sold so little that I don't think the internet has any sales data on it about how much this game sold.
No. The only people talking about Legend of K are you and me right now.
Yeah.
We're it.
Well, I think that one of our friends who is a avid listener of the podcast, I think he has played Legend of K.
Oh, yeah, he's into it too, but he's a weird guy.
He's the best guy.
Yeah, but he's played The Legend of K, so he's kind of denigrated his position, I'm afraid.
I mean, we are very much the pot calling the kettle black here.
I've never played this game. What are we talking about?
What is this show's premise?
I'm very confused.
Anyway, Haunting Ground.
Yes!
But K did return in some way.
Yeah, like a fucking lich going on beyond its natural death, K will never truly die.
Yeah. And this is one of the most surreal moments I think I've had in terms of my relationship with games. Because 10 years after this game came out, Legend of K Anniversary got announced by Nordic Games.
Just think to yourself all of the games that have never been ported to another platform. So many other games like that are stuck on one platform, like Metal Gear Solid 4 or Dino Crisis or stuff like that. Completely lost to time, only available on the original hardware. Not so with The Legend of K.
No.
Which actually, at the time of talking, is the most ported game of all time.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah. No. I thought that's a long statement, but...
It has gotten around.
Yeah. So, Legend of K, 5 years after it came out, had a DS port.
Yeah, it did.
And then, 10 years after the original came out, then got the Anniversary Edition that was ported to PC, Wii U, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3 and Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. That's the thing that's funny about the Switch version, is that the Switch version obviously didn't come out in 2015, so they went back for it.
Yeah.
They were like, all right, we've done the one port, now we've got to go back for seconds.
Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, how well did that fucking Wii U version do?
I mean, it was a third-party Wii U game, so either surprisingly well or it sold one copy to you.
I mean, well, I checked Metacritic and it's the highest rated version of the Anniversary Edition.
They were very sad at the time.
Yeah.
There wasn't much going on.
But, yeah. Why there's no Xbox One port, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go through the effort of putting it on the Wii U and making a PC version with a disc...
Yeah, Connor has a physical Wii or PC copy of the game, which I find really amusing.
I have a goal to own every version of Legend of K in some capacity. I have bought...
I mean, that isn't a very hard goal to achieve. They're all really cheap.
No,
I'm kind of dragging your heels on this, to be honest.
But I can do it. It's more trying to... I need to get a PlayStation 3 so I can buy the PS3 version. That'll be my first PS3 game, except for MGS4 that I have for some fucking reason. This is probably the most easy way to play Legend of K at this point in time. And as a die-hard Legend of K fan...
This is where we swoop in and we say, listen, you come to us for our Legend of K opinions. We are the authority on the Legend of K. And we can tell you right here, right now, the fucking Anniversary version of Legend of K is the worst crime humanity has ever committed because the menu music is different. And they fucked up the UI a bit.
Alright, basically, the user interface in the original version of K is like a little bit unique. It's a little bit...
Yeah, it's like stylized,
yeah. It's stylized. But when they upscaled it to HD, they probably had to scrap all that and put in a more clear, easy to read, sort of generic one.
Yeah.
It looks really boring. And also, a bunch of the music is sort of synced up in really weird ways.
Yeah. Which
makes me think that might be an issue with Legend of K in general. For instance, really weird deep cut. Inside of the swamp, there's one area... Alright. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Right.
Just a good sentence.
If you,
I'll lean back in my chair.
I'm starting to sound like Kitten and Under the Parenting on the plugin. Inside of the swamp in the original version of Legend of K, there's one part of the swamp that plays a more tense version of the swamp theme, but that music trigger only happens once, and in order to turn that off and get back to the calmer music, you have to go all the way back to like the beginning to run past a certain part of the level to get it back to normal again. And I think there's several points in the game where like Dragon's Backyard is like a weirdly tense track, which I think is meant to play during a cutscene. Like there's a bunch of stuff like this, but the ports, I think, rectify it in a way that makes it kind of worse.
Right.
When you start the game off in the original, there's a big title flash, this big bombastic music plays, the main theme of the game. And then
the theme of boats, yeah.
The theme of that big fucking boat.
Yeah.
And then you select your menus and you get into the game. the Anniversary Edition plays the fucking beach music, the calm beach music. You then press start game, and then with no flourish, it then blasts the theme at you. And it's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I don't know.
They just went like, whatever, it's done, fine, fuck it, put it out. That's probably what it was.
I'll also say as well that this is one of those curious games where HD visuals aren't necessarily too kind to it.
No.
Because the game isn't necessarily the biggest budget production in the world. Shocking, I know. So when you put it into HD, it only really reveals how kind of low fidelity and weird everything looks.
Yeah.
Like, I find in this version of the game, K doesn't look like he belongs in the world. Like, he's very shiny. He looks like a doll version of himself.
He does. He's got a weird sheen to him, whereas
yeah.
if you play the original PlayStation 2 version, the lighting isn't as intense, so he fits
just
in
blends
with the
right
background.
in. Yeah.
It's an odd case where that probably looks better despite being a lower resolution. But that being said, we could do a whole lot worse for K. We could talk about the DS
The
port.
Nintendo DS port of The Legend of K. Yeah.
I'll confess, I don't own it.
No one ever has.
No, I've been so curious about it, but I have seen a long play of it more recently.
How long is that long play?
An hour and a half. And you want to know the thing with this? Okay.
All right,
so they managed to port in the cutscenes, the comic cutscenes. They took out the voice acting. So to some, it's immediately an improvement. But
or maybe K's voice actor's voice was broken at that point. So he'd be like, "Hey, I'm Crocodile K.
Hey, how you doing? I'm K. I'm gonna show you my way, motherfucker."
This is an important or a relevant point to bring up, that every time Connor comes over to my house and rings my doorbell, he answers the door with that voice.
I'm like, "How you doing?"
Yeah, every single time.
You'll never guess who this is.
It's incredible work.
There's these little text boxes where all the dialogue is. All the character models are just their little portraits T-posing in the corner.
T-posing, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
They're like this, but they try to hide it. They obscure it with text so you don't see the arms, but the models are just doing their default T-pose.
Didn't they just move the arms down?
And it's so weird because one of the big things about the PS2 version, it was that era where the unlockables was you can see all the character animations.
Or all the concept art.
Look at them walk.
Yeah.
And it's like, you had those assets, you didn't fucking use them. But most importantly, the story is completely different.
Okay. So this is more like a Gaiden Legend of K.
Yeah.
This is an alternate take.
Yeah, because for starters, the original Legend of K is an A to B, you don't revisit levels. In this version, you do. You go back and forth to different places. You go back to Cat Village. But the
to Cat Village.
But the second thing, the thing that makes this so worthless as a port, there is no combat.
What?
Yes.
That's the thing.
That's the one thing that makes Legend of K fine.
Like, at the very least, let me draw little circles on the touchscreen so I can do little flips or something.
No, that has to be a map. And that has to be where your objectives are on the touchscreen.
What do you just jump?
You walk and you jump. You go from A to B.
It's a walk and jump,
you try to not touch enemies. They don't attack you, they just go by. They're just the fucking guard gorillas walking around with their axes on their back. They don't do anything.
Wow, yeah.
It's like a stealth game. So K, as like part of the final boss, he just goes to these different switches on the machine. He pulls the levers.
Oh, it's a fucking haunting ground boss?
Yeah, and then it cuts to the comic book cutscenes of fucking Monster Shun melting in lava, and it's like, what the fuck?
Man, yeah. It's
All right.
Elaborate production. The Legend of K franchise is truly storied.
And it's just like, oh, there's one review of the DS version of Legend of K, and it's a 39 out of 100 on.
Yeah, I believe the Metacritic for the DS version is like a 46.
Yeah, it's
like
low.
It's not a well-regarded game in the slightest.
No.
But listen, I'm just waiting for Legend of K DS Anniversary. That's what I'm kind of hitching my wagon to.
Oh yeah, when we can finally play that in stunning
100%,
HD.
yeah. With the music's wrong.
Well, the music is all MIDI versions of the original tracks, and they sound like farts. It's
That's that good shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is Boarax in it?
I don't think he is. I don't remember if he is. I could be shooting myself in the foot by saying that. But...
Yeah, all you Legend of K DS fans, come out of the woodwork and tell us if we're wrong about Boarax.
Well, I tell you what, I'll record a line that I can cut out of this if I'm wrong. Yes. There we go, and I can just splice that in seamlessly.
Yeah, you should do that every time because we always have to make edits.
Yeah, make sure I'll play this full clip every time. Like we do the Lost Planet 2 episode, and we're just like, oh, what about that thing? And I just go, yes. there we go. Editing Thunder here, confirming Boarax does not appear in Legend of K for the Nintendo DS. that's all the versions of Legend of K. But I think you have an important question to ask, Ash, if I give you the itinerary.
Give me the itinerary written on the back of an envelope that Connor's got here. This is my question. I kind of touched on this point earlier, but I want to come back to it as a concluding note. Is this game the most fine game of all time? And is that fine? Like, does this game serve a purpose, or is it entirely redundant? Would you recommend anyone to seek out this game?
This is a fantastic question, and it's one I've had to give some good thought to, because the Metacritic average for the PlayStation 2 version of Legend of K is like a 72.
Yeah.
And I think that's right.
See, I would give it a 68.5.
Alright, oddly specific. Is that like below something that you like more specifically? It's not quite a 69 game.
Yeah,
it's not nice in that way.
It's not. No, I can't have Legend of K be nice. It might be lower than Haunting Ground, but whatever. I don't recall the Metacritic for Haunting Ground, because the only opinion that matters is mine.
But I think that 7 out of 10 is right. This is a solid game. I'd even go so far as to say that it's kind of good for the time. But think about it this way, right? If you're saying, would you recommend anyone seek this out? Regardless if it's the anniversary or the PlayStation 2 version of this, DS sucks. Let's not talk about it. If your choice is either playing this or catching up on any game that's come out in the last 5 years you haven't been able to play, don't pick Legend of K.
Yeah.
I like this. I like the combat system. I'm very fond of this as a childhood thing. But I would say that in the same way that you mentioned that Disaster might be the most mid game of all time.
Yeah.
I think it's mid, but it's interesting and it's varied and it's quirky.
It's like
and it's something to
chaotic
talk about.
mid, whereas this is lawful mid.
Yeah. This is completely standard. This is more fun to play. This is more solid. This is more consistent.
But you don't eat the big burger.
No, you don't eat the big burger. You don't run away from Volcano. You just kind of... Well, sorry, you do run away from Volcano.
But
sorry.
it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. But it's just a completely fine combat game.
Yeah.
The main thing I'd recommend for it is if you want to kill some time and you really like having cute achievement icons on your Steam version, the achievement icons on Legend of K are very cute.
Yeah.
They're these little...
Or if you DM Connor, he'll send you his Steam cards for it. So.
Oh, no, sorry. These fucking Steam cards, one of them is of...
Shouldn't have asked.
One of them, because every fucking Steam game must have trading cards now.
Yeah.
One of the ones in Legend of K Anniversary is one of the demons.
Great.
And that model was never designed to be seen in HD because it looks horrid.
God, you have to show me at some point. Yeah.
The demons are like all transparent in the demon world, but this model is like fully opaque and it's just a big blobby red man. It looks like Elmo's demented cousin.
Anyway, well, let me say my piece about the fineness of this game. I obviously have no personal history with this game. My main feeling towards it prior to playing it was something that was very important to you, and this was very important to me because you cared about it. Having played it, I'm going to use a different qualifier for it, and that I think this is the most nothing game of all time. This is a game that we played for 3 sessions, which means we probably played it for about 12 hours, as I said earlier, and I felt nothing that entire time. I don't think my view of games has been enriched by this. I don't think my understanding of the world has gone any further. I think I had some fun for 12 hours, and then that was the end of the entire experience. So many games on this list, no matter what their quality, no matter what their presence in the industry, have been important building blocks in the tapestry of my understanding of the world. They've all contributed in some way to how I perceive games, how I perceive their eras, stuff like that. While this game is indicative of its era, it's almost like a catalyst in the sense that it is that, but it doesn't do anything with that. It's like a guy named Bob who's just really bland. And he represents people in a very particular way, but he has no actual qualifying personality traits or anything like that. He's just dull.
Yeah.
And you don't mind talking to Bob, but you get nothing from him.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything of significance about this game that I care about. I just remember that we played it, and it was fine. And we talk about Crocodile K quite a lot.
You know what the most impact Legend of K has ever had in your life?
What's that?
And understanding of games? It's understanding what those discs were that I would leave in those other boxes.
You gave me the context for those discs, and for that, I can't thank you enough. And I don't want to be too mean to it, because it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. It's not a game that you can hate. Because there's nothing there to hate.
I like the work that these people put into their combat system and making a game that had an aesthetic that I really liked.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I honestly, if this game didn't star a cat, I'd probably be bumping it down a point, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But it's
If still it wasn't so busty, maybe I'd be a little more.
Whoa. Yeah, I don't know. It's a part of my personal history, and that's kind of all that really matters.
Would you say that The Legend of K is the most forgettable game on the list?
That's a great question, because on my personal standpoint, I would say no, because we've played a lot more 7th generation games that I've completely forgotten about. Even something that was like as zany as Rise of Nightmares that had such a unique control system.
Yeah.
I forgot about that faster than I forgot about Legend of K.
I mean, Rise of Nightmares will always have Shake the Baby to me, so...
It will.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is where it's like, there's so many games like that, and it's like, but they have their own thing, and K is in that rung. It's there with like Marlow Briggs and Prison Break, and...
Hey, don't you come a Prison Break like this.
where it's in this weird area of, it has its own thing, but it does not stand out next to anything else that we've done.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to spend a while figuring out what the fuck the cover art for this episode's going to be. Because we do not have any ideas.
We have no ideas. That is the Legend of K experience.
Oh, man. Well, shall we do the due diligence of rankings?
Yes. I feel like we've already made our... Well, I've definitely made my opinions clear on the topic.
I think quality, I want to say on my point of view, I'd say that this is like either middle or middle high.
I'm going to go middle low.
All right.
I don't think it's distinguished enough to be in the high. I think it's not got enough right with it for it to be high. I don't think it deserves that.
Yeah, maybe I'd just say middle then.
Yeah, I would also go middle. Yeah. Let's equivocate and say middle.
Interesting, I'm going to say low.
Yeah, maybe bottom. Maybe literally the very bottom for me.
Oh my god.
This game is not interesting. I have felt no compulsion to seek out any information about this game. I know enough.
I think I find its combat system interesting as just like it's something that jumps out from it, and I do like the aesthetic and stuff of it, but the only thing that stops this being at the bottom of the list for me is that we've played some sequels to other games that are like perfectly good that don't do anything interesting with them as sequels. They're just solid sequels, you know?
That's true, maybe, but I guess if we're saying that K's combat system is interesting, I would say the mechanics of those games are more interesting than K's combat system.
Okay.
At least to my estimation.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So for me, K is literally rock bottom.
Fair.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't say I blame you. And then as for fun...
We had fun.
Yeah.
It gave us the City from Robots joke, and we were doing that for a while. That one animated us for a good period of time.
I think for me, whether that's our experience of playing it or just mine on myself, I'd give it a middle.
I'll give it a low, but not lowest.
No.
I kind of remember it being very banal and not particularly distinguished in any particular way, but it's always that thing where it's like, but I was with my beloved friend.
Yeah.
So I was having a good time regardless.
That's often the case with these things. That's what gets us through the list.
Yeah, 100%. The real winner was friendship.
Absolutely. And that is the legend of K.
The legend of K has been told. And now our tormented souls can go to heaven.
As the legend goes on.
Well, the legend draws to a close, as does the legend of the first season of List Goes On.
Yes.
That's right. We have hit the ultimate milestone that all media forms aim for, which is 12 episodes.
It's a good solid 12.
Good round 12. One for every month. That's definitely how much they've come out.
We need to celebrate our beautiful Frankenstein children at some point, because I gotta say, I was a little disappointed with the potties this year.
The potties this year, yeah, they didn't have us in them, so...
No, we didn't get a shout out at the Game Awards.
No, nothing, yeah.
No mention at the Oscars.
Yeah, no, it was disappointing.
I think it's disappointing that our show can't be celebrated in the same way that Jeff Keighley knowing Hideo Kojima can be.
Well, if we're going to talk about Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima, allow me to slightly overinflate our own importance and just say that no one else is doing the work that we are.
No.
No one else is putting in the hours to catalogue such a varied diversity of games. And because of that, it is critical that we award these games with plaudits and accolades that they deserve.
Indeed. And I also want to give a colossal thank you to everyone who has continued to listen to the show.
Oh, those guys too, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And that is why you are all invited to the first annual List Goes On Awards.
Yeah, we're rounding up the invites now, so if you could all DM us your addresses.
Yes.
Thank you, that would be much appreciated.
We'll post them straight to you.
Yeah.
Be sure to wear your best formal
Yeah, black
dress.
tie, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. As we host the List Goes On Awards to celebrate the show and the games that are in them.
Well,
in a completely arbitrary manner.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good.
No.
Much like the List Goes On has been thus far.
Yeah, it's
going to be a chaotic mess.
It's not going to be good, but it's going to be ours.
Yeah.
It's going to be a symbol of our friendship.
A beautiful, beautiful symbol. We have awards, we have committees, we have beautiful prizes planned.
That we do.
You could win a washer dryer. You could win one of Connor's copies of The Legend of K.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Put out a little raffle for a Legend of K copy. Great. Share that with the world.
So it's going to be a little funky because we're not quite sure what the format's going to be. We've got a lot of planning to do, but we hope it's going to be fun, and I hope it's going to be a good close off to what we call the first era of The List Goes On.
Indeed. So please, join us next time for the List Goes On Awards. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to see more from myself, my main channel, ThunderPsyker, has quite a lot of videos coming out for it at this moment in time. I believe by the time this is out, there will be retrospectives on Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, on the Dawn of War 1 modding scene, and upcoming will be Vampire the Masquerade. Which will be very exciting.
Very exciting. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well. If you are interested in supporting us in what we do, extended versions of many other episodes will be available through my Patreon.
Oh, yeah, the extended Legend of K episode is going to be legendary.
I don't know if this will have enough to be an extended.
Just put it out the exact same and call it extended.
They'll have one extra line.
No. It'll be the exact same. If you want to subscribe for that.
It's been wonderful, Ash. Thank you for sharing in me the Legend of K.
I got things to plug.
Indeed. What would you like to plug?
If anyone wants to talk about Final Fantasy VII, let me know. I'm in the mood for it.
Yeah, that's been a recent.
If you crazy kids want to read a Klonoa review, then I won't share it with you. So don't ask me about that.
If you've got it out on your website by now, I'll pop your blog on the.
No one can know.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening again, everyone, and have a fantastic day.
Yeah. We hope you make good choices as always. Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
Bye.
I swapped. I took it from you.
You took it from me. You took everything from me.